Courtside Conversations.
Courtside Conversations.
The Roland-Garros Tennis Podcast.
Hello and welcome to a new year of Courtside Conversations, the official Roland-Garros podcast. I'm Gigi Salmon, and together with special guests, we will be keeping you company throughout the year, always with an eye on Roland-Garros, which is the next major that we're going to be building up to with the Australian tennis summer complete and our first Grand Slam champions crowned. And I'm really happy to say that with me to look over the season so far and to what lies ahead, former world number 5, winner of multiple titles on the tour and winner of the career slam in mixed doubles, Daniela Hantuchova. Daniela, thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Gigi, for you, anything, anytime. And I'm super happy that, we've done this a while ago, the other way around. So it's just chill and be here as a guest and just wait for what you're going to throw at me.
Firstly, I want to ask you how your recovery from Australian jet lag is. I know it's a long time ago now, but it's something we talked about when we were there, when you arrive and you have to kind of reset. So how was it coming back from Australia?
You know what? I don't know which way it's worse. This one is actually easier in a way that you sleep in your own bed, you are home, so the adrenaline of knowing that you are going to see your family, your friends, kind of helps to get over it, I think, easier. But the usual, 4 a.m. Wake up times for the rest of the house just because you want to have your morning coffee and you feel actually like you should be eating lunch or dinner by 5 a.m. Kicks in every single time. I feel like more trips from down under, the worse it gets. I don't know about you, but what did help this time around that the weather has been absolutely beautiful in Slovakia. I managed to play some golf rounds already in January. We could keep going on about the jet lag issues.
Well, no. One thing I want to ask you about it is, I think with age, for me, jet lag gets harder. And as we talked about in Australia, I nearly ran into the River Yarra when I had jet lag. But as a former professional, you were traveling most weeks of the year. If I asked you to give one sort of top tip to deal with jet lag, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question, Gigi. Only one tip, because I feel like it's a combination of few. But if I have to pick the most important one, keep moving. Keep especially the cardio part and stay being outside, fresh air. I think is the most important, not to stay in a hotel room or cardio I would say. There's one thing.
Just keep moving.
Yep.
And don't fall in any rivers, which I nearly did. Now this, of course, is the official Roland-Garros podcast, and being a Roland-Garros champion, you won the mixed doubles in 2005. Does Paris and does Roland-Garros, does it always have a little special place in your heart because of what you achieved there?
Oh, absolutely, Gigi, especially because it's a European slam and growing up on clay and Paris was always the one that I looked up first to. And I remember when I was 12 years old, my coach then, he went to Paris, worked the Roland-Garros and actually brought me the clay in like a cream size pocket box. And ever since then, I was kind of dreaming that one day I'm going to make it to Paris. And it is so special. Like in a player's heart, the season is always going to be built around the Grand Slams. And that kind of stayed even when retiring. We already checked the box for Australian Open. And in my heart, I'm already preparing for Paris. So it's crazy how that is so engraved in my DNA. And honestly, I do hope it's going to stay like that forever.
Well, the final words of Todd Woodbridge, who was our master of ceremonies, his final words were, with the Australian Open finish, Roland-Garros, it's over to you. But there's a big chunk of hard courts before the clay, but especially on the ATP tour, you can pretty much leave Australia and just go straight to the clay and pretty much stay on the clay.
Yeah, it is so true. First of all, I thought it was so cool he said that. And it reminds players that we are so privileged in tennis that we do have those 4 highlights. When we said in Paris last year, and it's over to you, LA. Okay, now you've got 4 years where us, it never stops. Few months before we know it, we are all in Paris and eating wonderful croissants. So you're so right. Yeah, the guys especially, they go to South America, then in no time we are heading to Monte Carlo, Rome, Madrid, and really, those that feel very comfortable on clay can make a big part of the season.
And in terms, we can link different foods to different slams. I take us back to Australia, where you have the Australian tennis summer, you have the weather. Were you the type of player that wanted to? Some players come straight into the Australian Open. Some play build-up events. Where did you sit in terms of how much of a build-up going into Australia?
I was definitely always the build-up kind of gaining momentum kind of a player. And I felt like I needed to have a lot of matches going into the slams. I was always like that. So ideally 1-2 tournaments before. I would say I would feel comfortable if the 2 weeks before let's say Roland-Garros, I would have played around 6-7 matches. Then I would consider, okay, I'm ready to go.
And how important was it? You'd just come off really pre-season. Was it to get a good start in Australia? Did that for you as a player kind of set the tone for what lay ahead in the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's such a brilliant question, Gigi, and it was absolutely the number one priority. And that's why I was making sure my pre-seasons, at a time when we didn't know so much about fitness and nutrition, I can say with all my honesty that I think I was one of the most hardest working athletes during the preseason, because I just felt like I need, start of the season in the best way possible. I have to say I've managed to do it really well. There are hardly any years that I felt like I did not play my best in Melbourne, and that just gave me so much confidence going into the, India was Miami kind of trips, and then looking ahead to the clay. So such a good question, and I think so important.
It's a fascinating start to the year to see where the players are at, where the mindset is at, how they are looking at things, how they are feeling. And if we go back into the Australian Open, so many stories, but Madison Keys, her run, her success, her trophy lift it just encompasses everything. It's an absolute fairy tale of a player who has worked so hard for so many years.
Absolutely, Gigi. And I think there was not one single person at the grounds that didn't want Maddie to lift that Grand Slam trophy, because we all believed she always had the talent and potential to do so. And it was so wonderful to see her game coming together at this level at her age. And we've mentioned it so many times throughout the tournament, but we have to give so much credit to her husband as well, slash coach, who had the guts, because it is not easy when you have such a already consistent and successful player to say, hey, I think if you make these changes technically after all this year on the tour, 15 years and counting, that's, that takes a lot of guts from the coaching side to be able to tell your player, look, I believe this is what is going to make a difference. And thanks to their trust, I believe, in the relationship, as far as tennis goes, they are able to say that they are now the best team. I think another wonderful gesture, talking about team, is how they now reward the coaches as well during the ceremony. I think it's so cool, and without a doubt, they both deserve these trophies.
Let's have a little listen to Keys talking about finding peace with her career.
The kind of just internal pressure that I was putting on myself. I felt like from a pretty young age, I kind of felt like if I never won a Grand Slam, then I wouldn't have lived up to what people thought I should have been. And that was it was a pretty heavy burden to kind of carry around. So I finally got to the point where I was proud of myself and proud of my career with or without a Grand Slam. And I finally got to the point where I was okay if it didn't happen. I didn't need it to feel like I had a good career or that I deserved to be, talked about as a great tennis player. And I feel like finally letting go of that kind of internal talk that I had just gave me the ability to actually go out and play some really good tennis to actually win a Grand Slam.
Danny, I'm wondering how much you can relate to what she was saying there, because when it comes to being a top player, I imagine those goals are being world number one, winning a Grand Slam, and that is quite a lot of pressure and expectation to carry around.
Yeah, Gigi, just listening to what Maddie had to say there, and being courtside during her semifinals when Swiatek did have those match points, and I was in that situation myself in 2008, and I kind of had the same burden on my shoulders. When is Dani going to win one? I wish I would have listened to what Maddie just had to say, because I never got to that point of being able to say, you know what, I'm okay with the fact that I will never maybe achieve that. I wish I I listened to her advice now and was still playing, honestly.
It's quite incredible though that she got to that stage where she found that level of peace, because the game has always been there. And when she was a junior, she, it's such a big game. It was possibly the lack of consistency, but for me, her semi-final with Iga Świątek was astonishing, and the level. And in the final, I think it was the way she was able to close it out when it got to that moment, the way she raised her level to finish it off.
Absolutely, we always knew she had the tennis. I practiced with Maddie maybe 1 or 2 times, and I told my coaches that, you know what, I think it's enough, because otherwise I might stop and retire earlier than I should. Because when Maddie was on, and especially in practice, she was a little bit looser than in matches. I felt like I was just a ball girl picking up balls for her, because that's how good her tennis really is. And now finally see her doing it in the matches. To me, I think we were saying that the match against Swiatek was, if not the best women's match I've ever seen, top 3 definitely. And then the finals, being able to play those big moments better than Sabalenka, where Arina has been in those situations many more times before. She was playing a great tennis herself. So it's not like Sabalenka gave it to her. She really had to go for it. And she did. And yeah, just incredible story, and so good for women's tennis.
It was interesting. I was speaking to Laura Robson recently, who's a very close friend of Madison and was at her wedding in November. And Laura said that the day after she won the Australian Open, everyone's kind of like, you're a Grand Slam champion. She just wanted to go shopping at the local supermarket. And they were like, you've just won the Australian Open. And Laura said it's a sign of how normal and how down to earth she is as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why she's so loved in the locker room. There is no drama around her. I kept saying it throughout the tournament, like, just walking around the players' lounge. Now these days, players have their physios or their nutrition specialists coming and picking up their food in the restaurant, where, Mary just goes, like we all do, like normal people do, and just picks it up herself. So it just shows, how really the entire team are super, super cool people. And that's why it's so lovely to see them all doing so well.
What do you take from what you saw from Aryna Sabalenka, who by reaching the final, not defending her title, was able to continue on as the world number one?
Yeah, I think that her tennis is there. And I just hope she doesn't doubt it. She doesn't start to think what I have to change, because for me, she was very impressive throughout the tournament. She got better with every single match. I don't see why she can't lift at least one, for sure, if not 2 Grand Slam trophies still this year.
And Iga Świątek, a lot of eyes on her as to what happened at the back end of the season with a 1-month suspension, and then bringing Wim Fissette into her team. And through the start of the Australian Open, she also played at the United Cup, she looked unplayable at times. She was 14, 15 games lost until she faced Madison Keys. So yes, she'll be disappointed, but so many positives for her to take.
Absolutely, and especially Wim is, I think, bringing that calmness into her, not only on-court performances, but also off-court, maybe taking that pressure a little bit away from her, and just, enjoying other things in life. So not everything is so manual. But as far as her game goes, yeah, that match with Madison, everyone that was courtside from our TV colleagues, whether it was Laura Petkovic, Rene Stubbs, we were all looking at each other like, what's going on here? Like, there was just a different intensity, especially with Iga, with her footwork and how much she puts into every single ball, even some volleys that, she's not the most talented net player, but because of her willingness and the tension she brings, she even managed to make some that we were like, where did that come from? So I think, again, I'm the first one to say it takes a long time to get over losses like this, but I do hope both Sabalenka and Swiatek keep their hopes up. I'm sure they will, because they are mentally so strong, and that they will be ready for Roland-Garros and the rest of the Grand Slam season.
We saw how emotional Iga Świątek was when she lost to Madison Keys. She had, as you said, the match point. But it's understandable, because she is so tense and so highly strung, that emotion, there has to be a release. And for Iga Świątek, when there is a defeat like that, the emotion will come out.
Will come out. We don't see it much, because she does such a good job to protect everything. But I hope, for her own health, that she goes out, goes crazy, and breaks a couple of rackets, and and maybe I know it's not her personality, so maybe start with a non-alcoholic beverage, go out and have some fun, and if anything with e-guys, just to maybe enjoy it a little bit more. But at the same time, she, like you say, she is such a tense player, and thanks to that, she has all the results in the world. So it's tough to change that mentality, I guess.
I actually started at Madrid with a couple of colleagues of mine talking about will there be a big three in the women's game, and there was no disputing Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Świątek with the two. But when it came to the third one, there was a cross between Coco Gauff, who people didn't feel with the vulnerabilities in her game was quite there at the time. This is last year. And also Elena Rybakina, who it feels quite frustrating, because she has everything in her game and can be unplayable, but there's a lot of distractions in her life.
Yeah. I think if I have to add someone else to those two amazing players, I would go with Maddie. Although Coco is always going to be around, just because of that champion's attitude she's got and that physical ability. Like the way she covers the court, she can make up for all those technical, let's say, mistakes she does, because of her anticipation levels. And I always say that she reminds me so much of Jennifer Capriati, the way she moves on the court. Like, so many times she moves before her opponents even hit the ball. So yes, she might not have the best swing on the forehand, but she's there before everyone else would be. So she makes up for it that way. Also, her willingness to do big technical changes. I think one of the most sensitive ones, if you ask any player, is to make any grip change on your serve. Like I was like, no way in the world. Like, no, that's just no go. Even though a couple tried, I think maybe 3 days of my stubbornness gave up. And she was able to do it, like almost right before the WTA final. So she is going to be in the long term always, I think, one of the top three players we are going to discuss. But I would love to say at the end of the season that yes, Maddie was the consistent one. That now she finds a way how to back up that amazing run in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, it'd be great to see if she can push on and build from that. In terms of just a few minutes on players who were came back, we're going to say goodbye to. We saw Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, a great run from her, and her attitude now is, no, I'm not really going to worry about pre-season. I'm relaxed. I'll see how it goes. Then you have Paula Badosa, who was told nearly a year ago she may never play again, putting some wonderful tennis together. Belinda Bencic, back from having her daughter Bella. And we heard recently, Danny, that Petra Kvitova is returning to the tour after having her baby son.
Amazing news there. I'm super happy to see Petra coming back. I did see a photo from her in Miami, from our favorite coffee place. I'm like, why would Petra be there? Like, I was starting to be like, oh, okay. So yeah, great news. She is, I think, one of the most lovely person together with Madison. I think that we've got a nice. I would love for them to play doubles together, because that would be just all smiles. There, yeah, Anastasia. I love her attitude. Again, I wish I would have more towards the end of my career, just to kind of sit back. And she's so right. Like, why do I need another preseason? I've done already 5 of them. So no, she was a little bit like Maddie. Like, we always talked about Anastasia, like just having that incredible timing on the ball. And with this type of players, as long as they are physically okay, they can stick around for a very long time.
And news that someone who isn't going to be sticking around for much longer at all, in Simona Halep, a former Roland-Garros champion, former multiple. She also won Wimbledon, former world number one. I mean, the last few years for Halep with the suspension, then being allowed to come back to playing, and then it seems like a chronic knee problem. For me personally, I love watching her. I'm so sad that she has now retired, but she did give so much to the sport.
Gigi, for me, I think, we've seen a lot of players in the last couple of years retiring, but I think it's the one I'm going to miss the most, because I absolutely loved to, even playing with her against her in matches. And even when I lost, I really enjoyed it, because it was always like a chess game. You can see how much she's thinking out there, not even mentioning commentating her matches. It was always so much fun. I was so much looking forward to what she's going to bring to the table today, how she's going to play against these powerful players like Serena. I mean, that Wimbledon final was just super class of, we could just have a show on that, and she deserves that, and we should just do that. I'm actually going to make a post today, just celebrating her career, because she's one of the, from my end, the champion I respected the most, not only as a tennis player, as a person. I went to Romania. This is when she just won Wimbledon, and I don't think we ever appreciated how well she managed to deal with the pressure and expectations. And I could not believe. We are all used to attention when we are home, but in Romania, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a superstar level. Like, we could not have just a coffee anywhere. It was incredible. So how she managed to represent her country and everything she's done for women's tennis, being an incredible example of, you don't need to be tall, you don't need to have huge arms, shoulders to play incredibly amazing tennis. Let's not forget Darren Cahill. I think he had so much to do with Simona's success. And yeah, I'm gonna miss her big time.
As a tennis fan primarily, I absolutely loved watching her. I loved interviewing her. She was so kind and thoughtful, and I'm really going to miss her. But you mentioned a man there in Darren Cahill. You know him so well. She recently said, look, he is the best coach. He stuck by her through thick and thin. Working with Jannik Sinner, but Danny in Australia made the announcement that this will be his last year working with Jannik Sinner, and we expect, just from the coaching side of things, to step away from coaching at the end of this year.
Yeah, you can understand. It's not easy to be a coach for so many years, and his record, I don't think anyone will be even close to that. Took Andre Agassi to, I don't remember if it was back to number one, but winning slams again. Leighton Hewitt became number one in the world. Simona Halep, Jannik Sinner. It takes a lot of talent not to do anything with me when we had the little chance to work together. But it was more a part of the Adidas program, so we only had a couple of weeks, really. So I do find my, but we always laugh like, hey, what happened there? Everyone you touch, number one in the world. So, and yeah. Brilliant. The other day, I asked Darren what the problem was. It's like, yeah, you just play way too much tennis. I'm like, oh, thanks. Okay. Anyhow, yeah, just like Simona, if this is really the end for Darren as far as coaching goes, although Jannik did try during the ceremony say, maybe I'll talk to him.
He really tried.
It's still a long season, but if this means he's not going to be around, yeah, tennis will miss him big time, because I do agree with Simona. If not the best coach in the world, I actually wouldn't be afraid to say he is the best coach in the world.
And for Jannik Sinner, he continues to stun and amaze. He's 23 years of age now, 3 Grand Slam titles from 3 Grand Slam finals. He was ill for a part of the Australian Open. We could visibly see that. And he still has the court case hanging over him that could lead to a ban. And yet still, Danny, he produces the tennis that he does.
Yeah, it's amazing how strong mentally Jannik is for already. It almost feels like they'll be like Coco. These guys, both of them, it feels like they've been around for 20 years on the tour. That's how they act. That's how they go about their business, and just that maturity. And he said it himself, he understood this year and learned, even more how to accept that every day in a Grand Slam is different. Some days I'm going to feel great, some not. And he found a way how to navigate through it with all that pressure, like you said, all the outside noises he has to deal with, just being able to close the door. And as soon as he's on the court, he just focuses on what he has to do. And also in his interviews, the way he describes that win, yeah, it was a nice way to defend. We all would be saying, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah, and it's just so cool. And I think the best moments of the tournament was when John McEnroe asks him, well, how do you manage to be like this? Italians are very expressive. And he just goes, well, John, you and I are a little bit different, right?
My favorite thing about Yannick's in interviews is he finishes them. So when he's on court and maybe they need to ask a few more questions, he will suddenly say, thank you so much, everybody. It's lovely. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And he does it in such a polite way that you can never hold it against him. But he's like, okay, we're finished now and I'm leaving.
He is so much about, just doing everything he can to be the best tennis player in the world. So you can see like he's very, business-like. And I hope he always stays like this, because that's why, he's number one in the world and managed to defend his title. And it's not easy in his position. I think one of the most important skills where he's now is to say, okay, it's enough.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And what it means, he's nearly 4,000 points clear at the top of the rankings. And we all know what Yannick Sinner can do on a hard court. But what about the other surfaces? Here he is on what we can expect from him this year.
On hard court, I feel more comfortable, no? I think that we can see. But I take it as a positive, because on the other surfaces, I still have to improve. I have to see how it works. And I'm going to put a lot of energy in that, no? Trying to find the right ways and hopefully to go far also in the other Grand Slams who are not played on hard court. And then we see, as I always say, I'm still young and I think I have time to adjust, especially on grass court, because I've never played the juniors. It was kind of new when I arrived to the tour. And then we see, it's exactly that what I like. No, the difficulty is trying to understand where I can improve, and hopefully I can show that when the season arrives.
Again, he is just 23, as you mentioned, and you likened him a little bit mentality-wise to Coco Gauff, and there it is again. He's not panicking. He knows he has time. He knows he has time to. It doesn't have to come all at once. If it takes him a bit longer, he's thinking long term.
That's the biggest strength of Darren Cahill as a coach. He talked to me about it a lot of the times as well. Sometimes it's thinking as a tournament, it's a short sprint, so you have to take it one at a time. But you also want to run the marathon in the long term, and just to look back, what is the goal? Where are we going? And whether losing at some tournaments first round is not going to change the over like the long-term goal. I think also Marco Panicchi, his fitness coach, is very good as far as understanding the constant importance of training. So I think they both help him to just really literally focus on, the work is in progress and whatever results are coming with that. I think that mentality is just incredible to have all around the team, that no one in the team is focusing, okay, now the next priority should be Roland-Garros. No.
Well, I guess you could say in contrast to that, the Sasha Zverev team, the focus is on winning a Grand Slam, and he's older, back end of his 20s. And I think, Danny, I don't know about you, but in the final, the heartbreaking thing was seeing so early the body language of Zverev that told everybody, even if you're just watching tennis for the first time, that this man is not going to win this match.
Yeah, and I think I really wish he will listen to what Maddie had to say, just to come around the fact that, okay, you know what, guys, even if you keep talking about me for the next 5 years that I never won a slam, I'm okay with it. It's not an easy thing to do when you hear it left and right. But he managed to do so well when we were all talking about his serve, all talking about everything going on. So he does very good to, again, turn off that outside noise. And this is one that he really has to turn off and just say, Look, I am an amazing tennis player. I've done so much in my career with a slam or without.
Yeah, let's have a listen to Zverev. Here he is on what he's doing, how he feels, and what he wants to achieve.
I'm doing everything I can. I'm working as hard as I ever did. I think I'm doing all the right things off court. I think I'm practicing the right things. But I lost in straight sets today, so those are facts. I mean, that is a fact. I lost to Yannick in straight sets today, so, I don't want to end my career as the best player of all time to never win a Grand Slam, that's for sure. And I'll keep doing everything I can to lift one of those trophies.
I know that was the post-match press conference, and I know in the heat of it all, he said, I'm not good enough up on stage. But Danny, how does he take away some of that pressure? Because it's great he's being honest and saying, this is what I want to do and I really want to achieve it. But it just feels it's putting more and more pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah, you know what? At this stage, who am I to advise something? I would just say when another final comes around, because obviously Sasha has all the tennis in the world to be in as many finals as he wants to. It's not easy because the more finals you lose, the tougher it becomes. But just to really treat it as another match. And I think one thing he said, okay, look, I lost in straight sets. Let's move to the next one. Because what else can he do? He can only give himself the best possible preparation, which he always does. He also has one of the best fitness coaches out there, Jess Green, in his team. So there's no doubt that as long as he's healthy, he's always going to be also physically prepared as best as possible. And maybe someone that has been in that situation before, kind of the same story, because it's not the first time that we had Grand Slam champions after so many tries and could share the same kind of emotions with him. I don't know, but we all wish for Sasha to lift one at some point.
So that sounds from what you're saying that you believe that he has the game to win a Grand Slam, but it's the mental side of things where there needs to be an adjustment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep thinking who that could be to help him with that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but he will keep trying. He will be in and around, as will Carlos Alcaraz, who made some changes in pre-season. He looks fresh and ready to go. But Novak Djokovic, what did you make of? He didn't get the 25th that he wanted in Melbourne, but have you seen enough to think that is still achievable from him?
I think with a champion like Novak and with his mindset and mentality and toughness, it's always achievable. Even if we are sitting here talking about Novak in 5 years' time, just because of that genius that inside of him that can turn on his best tennis in some magic ways, like last year in Paris during the Olympics in the finals against Carlos. I mean, to play one of his best matches at this stage of his career, it was just incredible. So for me, there is no doubt that Novak can win another slam. Absolutely not.
What did you make of Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic? And is it a partnership you would like to see continuing?
Well, I love to see Andy around and seeing him, courtside, being out of control, because as it's so hard and you have to just watch matches and there is nothing you can do about. And yeah, I think it's a great relationship as long as both of them feel like it's fulfilling. Because I think just as important it is for Novak to feel like he's getting a lot out of this, also for Andy, because after everything he's done, he has to feel like, okay, I'm actually adding something here. I'm making a difference. Because with champions mentality like Andy has, he's not going to travel the world just to. And I'm not saying Novak has to be winning tournaments, but Andy for himself inside has to feel like he's bringing something to the table.
And a lot of people think Wimbledon will be the next best opportunity for Novak Djokovic to get 25. But when it comes to the clay and Roland-Garros, do you put Novak Djokovic in the group of contenders?
Absolutely, especially after that match we saw in Paris during the Olympics. It's the last time he played on the court, and he will remember those emotions really well. So I don't see why Roland-Garros shouldn't be on the list for Novak as well.
And I think it's interesting that on the WTA side, we talked a lot about there were stories of players returning and coming back from maternity leave and making great runs or later in their career. I felt on the ATP side, it was about the young players coming through. The João Fonseca, the Lerner Tien, the Alex Mickelson, they have the game. And Danny, they've also got the belief that they can go out there and they can take out the best players in the world.
I mean, they've got all the belief in the world. I mean, what's up with these guys? Like, not holding back. I was doing the match Fonseca against Rublev.
Wow.
Oh my gosh! Like, he's got me hooked. I'm already a huge fan, and the rest of guys as well. Because the difference is, when we came out on the tour, okay, you have some amazing wins because you believe but their belief, it's on another level. Like they've got the crowd. They point to them and they touch the ear to listen to see if ever. I'm like, I would be so shy if this is like my slam or whatever. So yeah, it's just a different generation, and oh my gosh, how they hit the ball, like it's just another level. I do feel like the rackets and strings have made a huge difference at this year's Australian Open. I feel like a lot of the players are starting to hit it even. It would be interesting to see the stats after the tournament, but I feel like everyone is hitting the ball harder, everyone is moving even faster. So yeah, I think it's just an incredibly exciting season coming up.
And you talked about earlier changing the grip and how it just a very traumatic thing to do, a massive thing to do. A few players are changing rackets. As Zverev did at the back end of last year, Madison Keys did it in the offseason. How big a thing is it for a player to change rackets?
That's easier than a technical thing because you only change if you know it's going to help you. And I would always advise anyone that's wanting to change rackets, you have to practice outside, not indoors, because indoors everything feels like, oh, it's so easy, and you have to play a lot of matches with it because normally our timing is so much better when we just practice. There's nothing on the line. So I would always wanted to play one tournament with that racket and see how it helps me under the pressure when we are tight, when the wrist is not moving, nothing's working, because that's what you're looking for that extra benefit or extra spin. I think that's we saw with Maddie, like she always went for the forehand, but now with this new frame, a lot of the balls ended up before the baseline just because of the new frame and she had more control. And when you have more control, then you feel like, okay, I can free up myself more and go for it even more so.
Now, talking about advice, the next Grand Slam is Roland-Garros. So there will be people listening who are starting to plan for their trip to Paris. So I want from you one piece of advice on something they should do, eat, or see when they come to Paris.
Oh, such a good question. How much time we have? Definitely need to go to the boulangeries around Roland-Garros because in Boulogne there's so many. It's actually my favorite part of Paris. If I ever had to live in Paris, it would be Boulogne. Talking about rivers,
yeah,
I would go for a run.
Just don't fall in.
But if it's Americans coming with a jet lag, watch out for not falling into it, like you. Or in Boulogne, actually Boulogne is safer. It's a forest. You can't fall into anything. You can fall, but you can't fall into anything. And as far as restaurants, Le Jardin de Presbourg, my favorite restaurant, and everyone should go there for a nice dinner.
I love this. And where is the next stop for you on the tennis tour this year, Danny?
Well, I do hope Indian Wells, where I will be seeing you very, very soon.
Yeah, we will continue to talk tennis and all other things as well. But Danny, thank you so much for taking the time and being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Sorry about the coffee machine noise that I did not see coming, but it just makes me want to have one and look forward to Roland-Garros more because there it will be with the croissant. Here's just coffee.
Danny, thank you so much for being with us. That is it from our first Courtside Conversations of 2025. Thank you so much for your company, which we look forward to having throughout the year, with all roads currently leading to the French capital and the second Grand Slam of the year. We'll see you soon.